Two Hurricanes I've made in 400mm radio control. I've made them out of donor aircraft. This is Hurricane 1, made out of a P40 originally, and this is Hurricane 2, made from a Spitfire. Now what I did with each of them was I gave them Hurricane cockpits. This cockpit came from a balsa kit from America, and this is an Airfix model 1/24 scale cockpit. I think this is slightly larger than the actual plane I've got here. I think these come out something around 1/28 scale, certainly the Spitfire does. So this cockpit is probably nearer the correct size. Also, the Spitfire are naturally smoothed underneath here, whereas for the P40 conversion I had to cut the air intake off, and then I filled it with a little plastic padding super steel, and that gives it, as you can see from the light here, very slight sort of pattern and indentation. I've also got the P40 upper body fuselage detail here, and that of course isn't there on the Spitfire. So if we look at the rear tailplanes now, this is Hurricane 1 from a P40, Hurricane 2 from a Spitfire. Now I didn't modify the Spitfire one at all. It isn't quite right for a Spitfire and it isn't quite right for a Hurricane. Perhaps Hurricane 1, as it got it slightly nearer. I did actually cut these wings a little bit on Hurricane 1, but on Hurricane 2 I left them as they were. And that's because I want Hurricane 2 to stand a better chance of flying, because Hurricane 1 doesn't fly very well at all. Now let's have a look at the main wings. So of course I cut off the Spitfire wing tips and rounded them off, but the rest of the wing is a little bit curvy, whereas on the P40 that was nearer the Hurricane wing shape anyhow. So perhaps overall the wing shape is slightly nearer on the version 1, and the fuselage shape is slightly nicer on the version 2. The other difference is the Spitfire weighs 49 grams. This conversion is 5 grams more, 54 grams. Whereas the P40 originally weighs 52 grams, and now this conversion is 11 grams heavier at 63. It's got 1 gram of nose weight even. So it is significantly heavier. And that is an advantage I hope will give Hurricane 2 the ability to fly properly. Number 1, nods. It's a bit tail heavier, I think. I added nose weight, that improved it, but now it's so heavy it doesn't really want to fly. This at 54 grams is 9 grams less than the other one. So for the same motor, everything else, I think it stands a nicer chance of flying. Air scoops, this is Hurricane 1. It has a solid air scoop. Well, it's bat form, so it's hollow inside, but it hasn't got an opening front or rear. And this air scoop is slightly more rearward than it is on a real Hurricane. Hurricane 2, on the other hand, has a lighter, slightly smaller air scoop that is more forward in comparison to the fuselage. It also has holes front and rear, so it will allow the air to go through. I'm hoping that'll give it a more aerodynamic advantage for flight. The P40 has a rear window. That meant I had to fill that in with plastic padding super steel and just let it dry off on its own. It has a sort of rippled effect. That's Hurricane 1. Hurricane 2 has a nicer finish around the rear of the cockpit, as the Spitfire didn't have anything that needed filling in there. Here's an Airfix 1/20 full scale Hurricane. There's my Hurricane 2. Hurricane 1. Quite a bulbous nose. Each of them have slimmer fuselages. Neither of them really look exactly like a Hurricane, but then the Airfix model is a static model and these two have to fly. Out of donor aircraft, I think I've done as much as I can. To me, they've got the rough lines of a Hurricane, as long as they fly.